Well, thank you everyone for having me here, but more importantly, thank you to all of you for being here and thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. You know, becoming your own boss is quite an endeavor. And when Dr. Johnson and I wrote Business Alchemy, Turning Ideas into Gold, we thought we'd do some research to find out what would the characteristics and traits of people who become entrepreneurs, these folks that leave their day jobs and go out there and are willing to try something on their own. So we thought we'd share with you some of our discoveries and some of the questions these folks asked themselves before they set out on this journey. So in all fairness to Jeff Foxworthy, we have a couple of questions that you might want to consider. For example, if you think the industry you're working in needs to be totally restructured and realigned with your way of thinking, well, then you just might be an entrepreneur. If you can't stand the way something is being done because you can think of at least a dozen ways in which it could be done better, well, you just might be an entrepreneur. If your hobby consists of isolating yourself in your garage and working on gadgets that nobody else understands, just you, well, you just might be an entrepreneur. If completing one of these projects is more of an obsession than it is a hobby, and you've been known to miss a meal or two while you're working on it, then you just might be an entrepreneur. If you think that getting something done is more important than being paid to get something done, well, then you just might be an entrepreneur. If you can't stand your current boss and you just can't wait to get out of the environment that you're currently enslaved in, well, then you just might be an entrepreneur. And if you believe that the only person you would be happy working for is you, well, then you just might be an entrepreneur. But if you want to become a successful entrepreneur, you may have to think about your answers to those questions a little bit differently. For example, are you willing to share your ideas with other stakeholders, people who can help you bring them to commercial value? In other words, share what you're working with other people? Well, if you are, then you might be a real entrepreneur. If you're willing to be honest with yourself about the skills and capabilities you possess and willing to learn things that you don't know and get help from others, well, then you may be ready to become an entrepreneur. If you're willing to learn fundamental business principles and understand the language of finance, well, then you're ready to become an entrepreneur. If you're willing to go through the discipline of building a business model so that you can determine the value of your concepts and ideas, well, then you might be ready to be an entrepreneur. If you've now convinced your family that the pursuit of your dream is something that's worthwhile for all of you to do, well, then you might be ready to become an entrepreneur. And if you're willing to risk your own capital to help make those products and ideas come to life and have your business get started, well, then you probably are a real entrepreneur. But if you're really serious about taking charge of your own personal economy and turning your dreams and concepts into a more fulfilling life for you and your family, well, then you've come to the right place, because that's what Business Alchemy, Turning Ideas into Gold, is all about. We're glad you're here.